Barely anyone takes trading seriously anymore. They just treat it as it's some sort of gamble. Professionalism in this game is almost gone. No wonder people are in this same position. So I thought what I'll do is I'll create a video on the pros and cons to prop firms, because there are certain things that people are doing on a daily basis that essentially makes them a gambler. You're probably doing it right now. In this video, I'm gonna list it out, the pros and the cons, because one of the best and worst things that's happened to this industry is prop firms. So over the past 6 months to a year, I've been doing an experiment where I just regularly ask people questions about prop firms funding, their experience, and just things that I have observed and I've noticed. Traders worry about things that doesn't even affect them. Very, very small percentage of people will get to payout, right? They'll do phase 1, phase 2, etc. And they'll just be in this same loop where they don't actually make it to a payout. And then what they'll do is they'll be looking at other prop firms versus another one and comparing, oh, this one has 90% profit split instead of 84%. They're caring about, you've not even made a payout. You're not even in a position to get a payout, but yet you care about these small variables. In what other world would you have such a big split in the first place? So that's another example of this payout culture as well. People are obsessed with, I just want to get paid, I just want to get paid. They basically become employees to the market. They don't realize their verbiage and their language, and these are people of influence that are guiding other people, and then they think it's okay. It's almost like they're on drugs. They become crackheads, where it's just payout, payout, payout. I just want to get paid. Like, think about how desperate that is. The market sniffs out this desperation. You don't get paid from the market. You follow a procedure, you have a process, and then the outcome takes care of itself. So this is the culture over the last, I would say, couple of years, but more so in the last year. People have almost lost all morals, where they don't really care what happens. As long as they get paid out, it's like, oh, this prop firm seems a bit dodgy. Oh, I don't care. I don't care whether the prop firm's dodgy, I don't care if the prop firm's a scam. As long as I get paid out, that's all I care about. This is the type of mentality that's happened in this industry.
If you see what we've done this year on the fund, and people have been able to do it by incrementally scaling up, from leaving, say, be running in a trade at 6%, but only walking away with 2.4 because of mismanagement, that almost solves that. So by default of them taking a few of those positions, they're already going to get to the next level. I already know there's at least 12 people on the fund. Had they used this management system, they would already be at 2 more levels from that running profit issue.
Before we get any further into this episode, make sure you are subscribed to the Market Brief. It is our free weekly newsletter. Every single Monday morning, you will get free weekly analysis delivered straight to your inbox. A few minutes a day and you'll be up to date with the financial markets. Links are in the description to subscribe to the Market Brief. So what I've done, guys, I've actually collated a lot of this stuff that I have to read it at this point because I don't want to miss it, and I don't want you guys to miss this because there are so many things. Like, one of the biggest pros to prop firms that's happened is essentially access to capital. And we have our own fund, so you know this advice is impartial because there's certain things here. I don't have an advantage to tell you this, but I do have a sense of duty and obligation to give you real, authentic advice, because that's what I'm here for. I'm not here to give you this quick fix. Right, I will never compromise my values and principles, so I'm just going to give it to you straight here. One of the things that I saw straight away and I alluded to is the professionalism part. We've lost this professional attitude towards trading. We're very comfortable essentially gambling, to the point that we're comfortable joking about, right, yeah, I risked all my account on CPI or some bullshit like this. Like, we're really comfortable joking about that. Remember, jokes are not a joke. There's an element of truth to it. Your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference. So when you start adopting this behavior and you think, oh, well, my favorite influencer on Twitter thought it was funny to do that, so I'll just follow their same shit advice. And guess what? You're in the same position. You're still not making money.
When I think back to the earlier meetup days, if you like, till now, we've gone from being in a coffee shop surrounded by the traders wanting to succeed, and now we actually have successful traders here, funded traders that are on our fund, and we're in a beautiful villa in Dubai doing a wealth creation mastermind, talking about high level goals, high 6 figures, 7 figures, like really making this a reality. Like, Falcon is fully in place because we've spent years building this infrastructure for guys like this to be able to actually make this a reality, not the facade that you see online that is just absolute nonsense, like real wealth tactics.
It doesn't matter what point in your journey now, you could have started trading 2 weeks ago. Everyone has got a funded account, or they're going through funding. Like, never in history, from my experience, where that was ever a thing. Like, you would get involved in trading, you would understand, right, I've got to learn my craft, I've got to be a professional, there's certain processes, I've got to be journaling my trades, then I've got to learn from them, I've got to do advanced self-review, I've got to make sure I'm working on my mindset simultaneously. You know, I've really got to put in the hours and work and make a lot of sacrifice. Now, 2 weeks in, oh, what funding should I go for? What do you mean, what funding should you go for? You started trading 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago. But because that's all that you see, you have a warped perception of what you should actually do. So I don't actually blame you on that behalf, but I'm here to explain to you that's not normal.
But do you see how now it's difficult to still revert back to what I need to do more of? You see how like your default was like, yeah, but I need to be more practical. You just got to try to stop. Forget about what you think you need to do more of, because you know that already, right? Think about just what is the next step. The idea of doing the same thing and not letting that itch of wanting to just improve and improve, because then you tweak too much. Like what was coming to my mind as you're saying that, imagine like Ronaldo was teaching someone how to take a free kick and they'd done everything right and they were scoring. And then this itch of like, I just want to improve. Yeah. So why do you want to improve? You're doing all the right things. You'll actually get the formula and you'll be doing all the right things. And then you'll fuck it up because that part of you just wants to feel the dopamine of like, I'm doing something a bit different.
You have to understand these prop firms is a race to the bottom. So they have to compete with each other. It's like, what do they want? Because we need to sell as many assessments as possible. Okay, well this person, because remember before, it was make 10% in 30 days. And what that done, it normalized, well 10% is nothing. You should be able to make 10% like it's nothing. Long gone have the days that if you made 60, 70% in a year, that would be a good year, because then it's a warped perception of, well, you need to make 10% in 30 days. And then that disappeared because people started doing no time limits. Bearing in mind, when we came onto the scene, we had a whole year for you to hit 7%, which is nothing, right? 7%. That shows, because the word intention, I want you to think about, what is someone's intention when they start? We knew that if you're not making 7% in a year, something wrong, you don't know what you're doing yet. So that's a very reasonable. When you do completely unlimited, there's almost no urgency, and that's why you still lose. And it hadn't changed the figures because people still keep losing. But what happened is it went from 10% in 30 days to now no time limit. Okay, so now everyone has to do no time limit. They don't care whether they give you 30 days or 6 months. They know you're gonna have the same destructive behavior and you're gonna lose your capital. So then that changed. So then what else do they have to compete with? Well, okay, we get withdrawals on, a weekly, or you can withdraw once a month. And then people start coming in with, well, we'll pay you out every week, or we'll pay you out same day. So then people worry about things, this is the point I'm making, they worry about things that don't affect them. You've not made a single payout, you're not consistent, you haven't proven to be consistent, yet you're now moving to another prop firm because of the idea of you getting paid out quicker. You see what's wrong with that? You're obsessed with payment, payment, payment. You're not even consistent yet. And what's interesting is that people will do so much due diligence on, yeah, I'm going with this funding firm because this is legit, or this, I like this, or this influencer recommended this, yet you've got no proven consistency in yourself and you think it's right for you now to go for funding. Think about how much is wrong with that.
Your personality creates your personal reality. This is why we have been educating traders for years to say you need to focus on the person you need to become to be able to trade the figures you want to trade. At the start of the year, I said, we're gonna do this. We're gonna get to that level and we're gonna make sure that our traders are in a position to come to Dubai and celebrate funding success. It's exactly what we've done. And if you don't change the way you think, feel, behave, your thoughts, your emotions, and you don't understand how you're wired, and you don't rewire the way that you think that might not be serving you, you'll just repeat that loop.
So before we move further into this episode, I want to touch on something very important that's going to be a key catalyst by you being consistently profitable long term, and it's psychology, but it's about having the right training. If you haven't been aware, for the last couple of years, we've had hundreds of traders go through our program, Rewired. As you can see here, we have Beyond Rewired and our core modules. Now, the core modules is essentially the A to Z to helping you learn how to think calmly under pressure. The end goal is to get you in a position where you're not nervous, you're not reckless, you're not revenge trading, and a whole bunch of other destructive things that are holding you back from getting to the next level. Now, these modules have been intentionally designed to essentially reshape the fabric of your mind and will be the key reason as to why you're not being profitable long term. You might have been someone who's had success here and there. This is going to help the consistency come in at such a high level. We can attribute over 90% of our traders that are on our in-house fund have gone through Rewired. So if you want to learn more about the Rewired program, all the links are in the description. One of the pros that I think are in place, but people don't see it or use it as a pro, it's actually giving you, for the right type of people that are ready, an opportunity to apply risk management. People don't do that, but that is the pro. You've got access to capital that you would never have access before, and you could apply risk management. So if you had the right level of discipline, you could go, I'm gonna stick to 0.5% per trade, and I'm gonna keep it. Doesn't matter what I think, what I feel, draw down, just gonna stick to 0.5%. This is what I'm gonna do. And that gives you the opportunity that whether the first time goes round or not, whether you take 2 or 3 assessments, because listen, I'm not an advocate of 10, 15, 20, but I also understand it's not always gonna go right the first time. It might take you 4. However, this mentality that didn't age well, I've done a reaction to a video about someone saying that 4 or 5 is not that many and you could take 20 or 30 before you get a payout. Now think about what that's encouraging.
How many challenges have you taken in your career? 4 total. What? 4 is not that much, bro. I'll be honest with you. Take more challenge. Like it might take you 20 or 30 challenges, and then you get a 50K payout.
And by the way, this firm doesn't exist anymore, conveniently. You have to approach it from more of a professional point of view. So when I talk about there's a loss of professionalism, a professional would come in and go, risk management. I have an opportunity to see what my emotions are like. Let's say, for example, you're on the brink of consistency. You want to test yourself and see, how do I perform under pressure? Where there's rules in place, I have to stick to risk. So that's the pro. You have an opportunity to do that. But because there's no one governing that, and that you can do whatever you want left to your own device, and you're following people that are encouraging poor advice, you just think it's okay. It gives you permission to also gamble. So how on earth are you going to build good risk management? So you might be thinking, right, if there's all of these cons versus pros, well, there's naturally going to be a lot more cons versus pros, because there's so many reasons that encourage you not to do and build the right traits. And with what you're seeing online right now, I don't blame you, I get it. But what I want to explain to you is this, because we have our own in-house fund and we've been running it for 3 years. We didn't just set up overnight, it took a long period of time because we thought about the long-term infrastructure. So my question for you, would you rather have 60 to 70% of something or 80 to 90% of virtually nothing that might disappear? I know what I would rather choose. So we set things up in the right way because we're not encouraging our traders to gamble. No way, ever, does not exist, 0 examples of denying payouts and more so letting people spend £6,000-7,000 in assessment after assessment. We would stop it there and then because we're able to check in with them and we're able to help these traders because we have our funded traders club, we have our 6-figure club within it and our 7-figure club, which gives them access to opportunities. So what we're seeing now is a trend of traders where these funding millionaires, where they've had access to, and they've got to a position where they've genuinely got 2 million under funding. So they clearly know something. I'm not saying all of these influencer traders, they're not good. They must know something to a degree. They just have no financial literacy, unfortunately. And I'll explain why and how we've helped our traders prevent being in these tough situations. It's not the first time where I've heard traders had 30K withdrawals, 20K withdrawals, like they've made a decent amount. They may have made 100K in withdrawals over, let's say, the span of a year or two. But they have nothing to show for it because they've invested so much money back into challenges, or they've just upgraded their lifestyle too quickly, which is what I help people avoid that situation from happening. And all of that 100 grand, it's just almost been swallowed. And they're in the same position where the firm's disappeared and are now going in challenge phase again. Now think about how could you build a long-term career that way? And the same thing happened to some of our students, but I'll tell you what the difference is. We work with people on an individual level. We have webinars on a quarterly basis. We have peak performance check-ins, so we make sure that our traders are focusing on the right things. I actually done a recession-based workshop not that long ago, and I gave people a formula as to, like, if you want to quit your job and you want to go full-time, there's certain things that you have to have in place that if push comes to shove, you have to prioritize specific stuff so you're not in a bad situation. So you won't be the type of person that is 7-figure trader in virtual capital and account doesn't exist anymore, now you can't provide for yourself because you didn't factor in these things. So think about when my Forex funds went down. We had traders that had 400K, 600K, 500K. I had people that weren't in Falcon reach out to me and ask me this question, and you couldn't make this up. We had a trader, 500K in funding, ticked it off, had other funding as well, but this was the main account. My Forex funds happen, goes down. Do you think that trader's panicking? No. Why? Because what did we do when we told him, when you go full time, make sure that you've got a minimum of 6 to 12 months. He prioritized 12 months of savings, already had his personal account and had the mindset training from Rewired to stay cool, calm and collected from what we explained in the recession workshop and you couldn't make it up as we was explaining another video 1 week prior, and I had no idea, I don't know the ins and outs of what's happening with my Forex funds, but before that happened, you couldn't make it up, and I've done a video about this. Literally, a week later, accounts disappeared. So our traders are getting the financial literacy in place. Nowhere in the world would you have someone who's got 2 million in funding and has made 100K with withdrawals, as my student would tell me, oh Mark, I've lost my funding, I also have nothing in my personal account, and I'm kind of at square one. I'd kick them out. Like, what are you playing at? You've listened to nothing that we've said. But they wouldn't do that because there's a professionalism in Falcon that we've built over the years. So people know what they sign up for. They know they're here to learn to trade and sustain it. So this is another thing that we put our arm over their shoulder and say, look, this is the process to do it, because these things happen. Unfortunately, firms disappear. Like, that's the reality. These are the pros and the cons of prop firms. But there's certain things that you can put in place to mitigate the risk of that. Building up your personal capital, making sure you've got a sufficient amount of savings in place. Like, there's certain things that you can do to not put yourself in really stressful situations. I want to comment on a few things that's happened recently. So funded trader, we had my Forex funds, now the funded trader, and of course a few other ones that got kind of linked with that, right? So a lot of people ask me, well, what do you think of the funded trader? I don't know. I don't know them. I don't know them personally. And there's a lot of people within that kind of group that I personally don't know. Only one I do know is Riz. Now, I went on a podcast with Riz, for those of you that checked out on the Words of Wisdom channel. I was on the podcast in the very earlier stages. And what I would encourage you all to think about is intentions. When I'm looking at these other funding firms and I'm looking at the intention of other people, Lamborghinis, private jets, not really thinking about long-term infrastructure, I'm looking at that and thinking, okay, so that's your intention. Then I look at someone like Riz, who has genuinely thought about the long-term future of investing into the project. I'm looking at, oh yeah, but he has a nice watch that was gifted to him. This is not someone who is thinking about hiring out Lamborghinis or buying a Ferrari and just doing this. This is someone who's flying all over the world, not to mention the sacrifices that would take and the toll it takes on raising a family at the same time. It's not easy. It's not just, oh, I'm traveling over the world doing podcasts, booking it in, people letting you down, controversy, so on. Like, it takes a lot of energy to do that. So what I'm always looking at is intention. Now, some people will say to me, Marlon, what do you think about it? Well, if it was in earlier stages, if they knew earlier on, why didn't they come out and say all of these things? My question is for you, is think critically. Number one, intention, which I don't think that he had bad intentions. Number two, and bear in mind, I have nothing to gain from this. There's no advantage or disadvantage here. I'm speaking impartially by using critical thinking. And when emotions are high, I get it. Some of you that have been affected, all that you think about is that was my money, I understand. But I encourage you to give people an opportunity to be able to speak. Give people an opportunity to be able to say that. That same karma that comes back to you, God forbid you're in a position where you're judged, and bearing in mind you've had no opportunity to defend yourself and everyone's coming at you and you have no opportunity to explain it, you wouldn't want to be in that position. So try and put yourself in that situation first. But what I would say is that word intention. That intention is clear. And if you don't have the right intentions, that's going to shine through. But someone who is not doing all of those things and is not living a lavish lifestyle, not driving around in supercars, is generally reinvesting back into things and trying to build something genuine. I encourage you to think about that part first. And going back to what I said about earlier, as that, well, if you knew these things earlier, why didn't you just come out and just explain it? Think about it like this. Imagine you're in a relationship with someone, right? Because it's the same thing, right? You're in partnership and you trust these people, you go in with good intentions. If you're in a relationship with someone and then you have some arguments and there's some friction, are you then telling me that on day one of argument or disagreement, whatever it is, what you just pack up and leave? If you're in a marriage, what you saying day one, you just get divorced? It's easy to look back in hindsight and then go, yeah, you should have divorced earlier, you saw those red flags, you should have just done that, it's your fault. Hold on a minute. Do I think there is a lack of judgment that needs to be, and I'm sure Riz has learned his lesson and probably reflected on that type of individual from how long I've known him. I'm sure he's reflected on, there were some judgment calls that maybe I should have considered a bit more with the type of people that I'm doing business. But this is a learning experience. What I am saying is, that is the equivalent of saying to every single individual that's ever been in a rocky relationship that they could have looked back and ended it on day one. No, you try to work on things. It is unreasonable and unrealistic to expect someone to go, yeah, day two, hey guys, I've noticed something, I'm out. Like that's not a reality that anyone lives in. So I think if you think critically, communication was there. He attempted to do right by, and I'm sure Riz is going to do right by all of the people affected to the best of his ability. But you have to understand that no way in this world, anyone watching, anyone included, would have in that moment gone, yep, that's me out. I'm not going to speculate all the other things because really I just don't know. I'm just giving you my overall advice of the intention of the individual, and that's what I'm always looking at. What possible reason, that's what you've also got to ask, and I don't think people are asking, what does he have to gain? What does he have to gain? What does any of them, and I don't know all of them, but what do any of them have to gain? If you really think about it, what have they got to lose? Reputation, more income, building something. So there is so much on the line to lose for nothing to gain. This is the internet, so it's not like you can just spawn up and yeah, reputation's ruined and then we'll just create something again. No, like people remember. So I don't think there is much to gain, and if people thought from that perspective, oh yeah, there probably wasn't much to gain. Exactly. So give them the opportunity to come back stronger, learn from the lessons, take accountability, and realize that everything was with good intentions, but some things don't work out. But you learn again and you try to do right by the individuals. The same way you know that when you're going for funding firms, putting this to one side now, when you're going for funding firms, you know you take the risk. If you don't know them and there's no face, there's no one involved whatsoever, and you go for the firm and let's say you've got a payout pending and it disappears, you understood the risk and you took that on board and you know that. So it's the same thing. So I encourage everyone to just give it a little bit of time, let it settle. The truth always rises to the top. I'm a big believer in that. But I encourage everyone to think critically and just try to calm your emotions before you judge too quickly, purely because emotions can get very heated. And like I said, I bring back to the same thing. You wouldn't like to be judged without giving yourself the opportunity to, let me actually explain how it happened. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. It's given you something to think about. I just wanted to really speak openly here about all these different things that are happening. Yeah, definitely some pros and cons with the prop firm world. And I really hope that many of you don't continue down this path of bad habits, because then you've got all of these firms that are here meant to help you. They kind of get in a position where they have to fight to compete, and then stuff like this happens.